Hi, welcome to Toussaint Warrior Trials. My name is Ade Toussaint Richardson, and this is a podcast where I interview various people about some of the trials and tribulations that they've gone through in life and some of the strategies and steps that they've taken to overcome or to come into harmony with some of these things. So today I'm going to be the guest of the podcast, and I'm going to do things a little bit different today and center the podcast around the topic of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because that's something that, I enjoy and I'm inspired to talk about. And there's a lot within the martial arts and my experience with it that brings up a lot of growth and obstacles and challenges. And yeah, so I wanted to share about that. So, where to start? I have some questions here. So, how did I first get into jujitsu and what initially drew you to the sport? So, I initially got into jujitsu through, I've always been an athlete. I played basketball for much of my teen years and into my early 20s. So I've always been very physical. And, growing up as a child, we were always physical. My dad was into martial arts, Taekwondo specifically. And I took some Taekwondo lessons early in life, and I really enjoyed it. I did a little bit of competing at that time. We had to stop at a certain time because my dad couldn't afford to continue to send us to Taekwondo. But I loved the sport, and my dad continued to practice. He was always working out, always doing like 1,000 push-ups, a bunch of sit-ups, and practicing his punching and stuff. So I was inspired at an early age to get into martial arts. And I had growing up, I had a pretty tough childhood, like many of us have growing up in the world. The world can be tough. And I grew up in Brooklyn, Crown Heights, and Brooklyn, New York, in the Crown Heights area. And it was a pretty rough area, and we would fight and wrestle, and there were no cell phones back then, so kids were very active. Fighting was always like, and not always serious fighting, but wrestling and stuff was, something that kids did. You'd compete, and I've always been very competitive. And so I got into, the martial arts, and eventually that transitioned into a little bit of boxing. I took boxing at the Boys and Girls Club, and I really enjoyed it. Before I took lessons, I would practice on a tree. I was always punching. My dad showed me how to punch early in life when I was a kid, and I would also hold mitts for him, and he would, or just my hands were the mitts, and he would punch my hands. And he had a heavy bag as well, so I would practice on that. So I did a little bit of boxing. Then with the basketball, I did that for a lot of years, and I would say probably in my mid 20s or early 20s, I stopped doing a lot of that stuff. I was doing a lot of running. I got into running, but I got into the end of high school, early college years. I started experimenting with alcohol and drugs, and that kind of just took over. And the alcohol and drugs were just like my resolution to some inner issues that were going on that stem from my childhood insecurities, traumas, and things of that nature. And so once I started with the drugs and alcohol, I wasn't as active as I used to be. And so, I kind of backed off on that stuff. And I did put down the drinking and drugging probably like at the age of 25. I cleaned up, and and I wanted to get healthy again. So I got into running, and I'm going to speed this up a little bit because I realize I'm telling like my life story, but I want to get to the jujitsu topic. But I think this is an important sort of setup to that. That was one of the biggest things I'll touch on a little bit about this. So if anyone who has struggled with drugs and alcohol, it can be very difficult to overcome. And I have family members that struggle with it to this day. And it's really hard for me watching them go through the addiction because when the addiction has a grip on you, it's just really hard to break that. Just got to the point where the solution for all of my issues was the drugs and alcohol. But then when I saw that the drugs and alcohol were the problem, that I couldn't deal with anything else until I dealt with that, then I was in a true dilemma because I didn't know how to live life without it. Every day I'd wake up and, I'd roll up a joint or get a drink, a bunch of alcohol, get some gin, and then call in the dealer and get in drugs. And that was the routine for me, in my late teens and early 20s. And my life just spiraled, downhill. And it was just like a Groundhog Day type of life, just doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. My world became very narrow, just very small. And I was in a lot of pain, and I remember the day that I thought that I just resigned myself to this way of living and thought, okay, well, this is just how it is. I'm just going to live like this for the rest of my life. And that really scared me because I always had a hope, but there was a point where I was like, okay, the hope just ran out and maybe this will just be how my life was. And so I prayed, I journaled, I got into meditation even while I was using, and I think those things helped, and perhaps were the thing that kind of led me to being open enough to at a certain point I went to rehab, and that kind of started a new chapter in my life. My world opened up, and I started to think about my health again, and started to repair my health. I would eat healthy. I would jog like miles and miles and miles. I was like really into running. And eventually I started getting back into boxing again. I got one of those, like one of those stand-up punching bags that you fill it up with water or sand. And I would have it in my apartment and just hitting it. And I'd punch it so much that I'd start hitting the plastic part and hurting my hands, even with the gloves on. I would record myself and watch the videos, and then I just really started getting back into it. Anyway, fast forward, family came along. I started kind of drifting away to the boxing. I've always maintained some sort of physical activity. The problem is, I think like in like the mid 30s, early 30s, I love food. I love food. Like it's my favorite thing. I love pizza. Like I grew up on New York pizza and I eat a lot, or I ate a lot. I don't as much now, but everyone knew me as someone that, wow, Ade, how can you eat so much? I would just like eat a lot of food. I have a high metabolism that I got from my dad. He's very thin. So I can eat a lot and burn it, but after a certain age, like somewhere in my 30s, it started to show. I started to get like a belly. I started to gain weight. And I didn't really like the way. I didn't feel healthy. I was getting out of breath walking and stuff like that. And so I was really into meditation at this time. I'm gonna get to jujitsu. I was really into meditation at this time, like probably in like the later 20s. I mean, I started like way before Eckhart Tolle. Zen, three pillars of Zen, and this sort of thing. But I really got into it to the point of like meditating at times for like 5 hours a day and practicing mindfulness throughout the day. I really got into the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. Who am I? And I would do self-inquiry like all throughout the day. Like I was probably doing it too much. Like it was probably like a kind of obsession at that point. So that started to, then I started to eat mindfully, and that helped to kind of eat less. I started to like eat half of the portions. I started to lose the weight. At a certain point, I was losing too much weight because that became an obsession. I have like an addictive personality. So, once I start something, I start getting obsessed with it. So I was like, okay, I just ate this much. And how about I eat even slower and like eat even less? And wow, I lost another 5 pounds. What if I lose another 10 pounds? And I just, to the point of people were like, you don't look very healthy. Also, at this point, I was going through a divorce and separation, all this stuff. Like, so emotionally, was a very difficult time in my life, and I've always had support. I had a spiritual teacher who I still work with today. Support from family, support from the meditation group that I was part of, support in different areas and friends and family. And so that helped to get me through those really difficult periods. At some point in that time, I reached out to a neighbor of mine who, I saw him with pads, with like mitts. And I asked him, "Are you a trainer?" And he said, "Yeah. He trains Muay Thai, boxing." I said, "I want to get back into that. I have a little bit of martial arts experience." And so, his name is Alex, and still a good friend of mine today. And I want to get back into training with him because he was the person that got me back into it. He kind of whipped me back into shape. He put me through the ringer. I mean, like it was physically challenging, mentally challenging. The thing I like about training with him is he is very detailed, really caring about the detail. Like I didn't know a whole lot, even from boxing. My footwork was bad, and he helped with the footwork. I really like having challenges. Like I think I'm one of those people where I think many of us are, that I just need something to challenge my mind, or else my mind goes to just negative waste of time areas. I'll be scrolling on the cell phone, watching YouTube videos, and some of the YouTube videos are like really violent. I could get into that sort of thing and just not feel good. Just scrolling Instagram, like doing all this stuff and just wasting a lot of time. So this gave me something to focus on. Also, going through like trauma in life, if you've gone through childhood trauma, which I'm convinced most of us have gone through that, and a lot of people are just not conscious of it. Doing something physical can be really helpful for that trauma. And so getting in there, working out, he'd put me through all types of drills, kicking drills. I'd never kicked so much in my life. I swear, like after Muay Thai with Alex, I'd be walking funny, and it's funny. I've seen Instagram videos that when you start doing Taekwondo or like any of those martial arts where you're kicking and punching, you start doing it around your house. And that was me, like kicking the wall, doing like squatting, doing stretches while I'm waiting for the train and practicing like side kicks and stuff like that. And yeah, I think I was about like how I'm 46 now, so I was 40 something when I started with Alex, and I thought I was old and I couldn't like do this stuff anymore. But then I started like my mind was like, oh, like back to I can do anything. I'm very athletic. I play basketball all of my life. But when I started doing this, it was really challenging. My body wouldn't do what my mind wanted my body to do. That was my first, like, sort of test of humility, where I had to, like, realize that this was a process. Slow down, learn to breathe. Even today, like, even talking, and I don't take a breath. So it was like learning to breathe. Alex would say, breathe through the nose, breathe through the nose. Learning where to take my breath, what time to take my breath. We would go, I think it was out in Long Island, to a Muay Thai place, and we would do sparring, and which was hard because now I'm in a competitive sort of atmosphere, and terrified, to be honest with you. I was really anxious. When someone's throwing punches at your head, it's you're like, what? You start to freeze up, and you can easily start to forget about the technique, the footwork, the things that you've learned, when you were going through the drilling, when I was going through this with Alex, the things that he would teach me. Suddenly, when there's this pressure and someone is throwing punches, it's easy to forget about that. And so, and what that just took was just doing it over and over. And Alex would be there with me and kind of reminded me of some of the things. And but it was a lot of fun. I've always been good with my hands. If Alex is listening to this, I'm sure he's laughing at this point. But no, honestly, like when we would spar, I like from childhood, I felt like that was always there. So the people who I was sparring with, I can get those punches in. The kick in, I need a little bit of practice with that. And the footwork and my defense wasn't too great, because I think with Muay Thai and boxing, you just got to get used to someone punching, like punches coming at you, or else you can freeze up and just like overreact and things like that. So at the jujitsu, at the Muay Thai place that we went to, it was like a place where you do everything. You do the Muay Thai, you do the jujitsu. And I was watching the jujitsu, and then I'd watch UFC and see a little bit of jujitsu there. And Alex is a purple belt in jujitsu. And then I was like, I want to get into that. I want to try it. He showed me some things. And when I went up to the upstate New York to stay for a little while, and I was doing a little bit of boxing, and then I was like, I want to try jujitsu. I took a class, and I was humbled, like just humbled. I came there thinking I'm strong because I've always been a strong person. Like I said, I've always wrestled. I like getting physical. And I just tie someone up, wrestle, get them on the ground, use my strength, and just hold them there. But at 40 something years old, not knowing any jujitsu and not having the stamina I had in my 20s, it was a different story. So my first jujitsu sparring experience, rolling, as we say in BJJ, was a really humbling experience. The first person I went with, I think it was either a white belt who was just much further along than me, or a blue belt, but he got me into mount, and I felt like I was, in a sauna with a wet, heavy person on top of me. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I started to panic. I was like, what is going on? Like, I tried to push him and I just gassed out. And he got me into arm and neck choke. And I tapped. The next person got me into a Americana, the typical thing that us, beginners in jujitsu get caught with. And I tapped. He just got me into to mount. He just got it real fast. Like, just using his, got me into mount. I didn't know what to do. Separated my arm, and I had to tap. And so, I went home. The next day I woke up, the whole body was sore. It felt like I got hit with a truck. Because I was using muscles that I never used before. My knees were hurting. Like I'm just wasn't used to being on the mat like that. Like everything was hurting. I was like, is this normal? But I was like, I got to learn jujitsu. I got to go back. Like I wasn't okay with not knowing, I wanted to know how they did this like with ease. And so I just kept going. I just kept going to jujitsu classes upstate. It was in Ridgefield, Connecticut. I started at a place called Core Academy Jiu-Jitsu with Professor Brandon and doing the drills and sparring and learning. And what I love about jujitsu is the details. Like the thing about jujitsu is it's not about how much strength you have. It's not about what I think I know. Like, like I can just, just will my way. When I used to wrestle people, just like grab someone and get. No, it's like every little move matters. There's so much. I'm pretty new. Let me just start off with that. I'm just a blue belt, so I'm at the beginning. So I'm sharing from a certain level. Someone who's purple belt, brown belt, black belt going to share so much more about this journey, but I'm just, sharing from where I'm at. So what drew me to the sport was I just wanted to learn a ground game because I learned boxing, Muay Thai, and I felt like, a lot of fights go to the ground. So you have to have some sort of ground game. You got to know how to grapple and take care of yourself. Someone grabs you, you have to have a little bit of knowledge of what to do and experience about what to do. So, in terms of next question is, how has jujitsu influenced my personal growth and development? It's humbled me. It's like humbled me. I'll be honest. I'll look at some people and say, this person can't, like, I should be able to beat this person. They may be thinner than me. They don't look like someone who can fight. I have my prejudice. I got to say that. I go to it. I have my prejudice. Still have that Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Yeah, I'm tough. I grew up this way. I got into a lot of street fights and this stuff. And, this person's not gonna, man, I've been humbled so much, so many times, so many times. Like the thin, like 140-pound person who I just can't get past their guard. I'm stronger than them. I have more strength, more weight, and they just keep that knee shield up and just keep turning me. And like, I just can't, it gets frustrating. And then I get tired and then they get me in some move and they end up sweeping me. And like, then I'm feeling like that 140-pound person is now feeling like 180 pounds. And I'm feeling helpless. I'm feeling, you know, my gas tank is empty. I'm like tired, I use too much strength. My muscle like are just spent and I'm just like, just trying to hold on until the round is over. Sometimes I have to tap, they get me into something, an arm bar or whatever. So it's been a lot of that. And it's been, you hear this all the time. There's peaks and valleys. Jiu-jitsu is not just up and up and up. Jiu-jitsu, some days I'm doing jiu-jitsu, I'm like, I'm not getting any better. But the beauty about it is, I think if you just keep on, like one thing it's taught me is just keep showing up. Keep showing up. Just show up. Punch the time card, put on the gi, strap on the belt, warm up, go through the drilling. You've drilled this over and over, do the drilling. I got to admit, when it's time to roll, I still to this day get anxious. I get a little fearful because a lot of times I get nervous that my cardio is not going to be there. I just get anxious that, you know, I'm gonna gas out. And how is that gonna look to the other person? Oh, like it's such like mind games. Like, oh, Ade gassed out. Like that's what I'm thinking. Like I want to appear a certain way to people, especially if I'm rolling with other blue belts or white belts. I mean, like I'm afraid that I'm gonna panic and I'm gonna get, and then what other people think of me? You know, that's all ego. Yeah, so that's there. I haven't gotten over I haven't gotten over that, who's to say when I'm a purple belt or a brown belt that I'll get over that. You know, one thing I'm learning with life is sometimes we have little quirks, little anxiousness, little things from childhood that are here with us, little things from our family of origin that has passed down certain things. And perhaps not these things will never go away completely. Perhaps we just have to live with certain things. And the point is to show up anyway, you know? So today I show up. I get anxious. I get a little afraid sometimes, but I show up. Someone asks me to roll, I never say no. Unless I'm like warming down or cooling down and I have to go to work or whatever. So I'm just in my stretch routine or whatever. But I don't care who it is, the scariest person, if someone says, "Hey, you want to roll?" I will feel anxious. Oh no, but my mouth will say yes. And I just go and I do it. Sometimes I give up a position because I'm anxious. The other day I was rolling with someone and we started standing and they are bigger than me. And I was tired and I was like, I just like I just felt I had a hold of them and I just kind of fell backward onto the ground. And I think that's really a newcomer, like blue belt, white belt sort of thing. I just fell to my back and put my legs up and they just like crushed like right past me because it was like I could have just stayed up and continued to fight. And I just kind of that anxiety, that sort of mental game. It's like really the mind says, no, no, just you're gonna get gassed out. You're not gonna have anything in the tank. Just go to the floor. And that's where I think contact sport, like the martial arts, is so much of a mind game. Your mind says, I cannot do it. And you just kind of, I think Hickson Gracie talks about this. You just got to ignore it. Okay, yeah, you hear it. And for me, sometimes I succumb to it. I'll be totally honest. But sometimes I don't. And I kind of counter it with, you're not going to die. You're in full mount. Some wet, heavy person is chest is on you and you can't breathe. And sometimes I'll just say to myself, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. Just get an inch, get a breath, try to get your arms in, try to start to work your way. They like just wait for the opportunity to try to get a little space and try to hip out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, So, okay, physical and mental benefits. What are some of the physical benefits of practicing jujitsu regularly? There's tons. There's tons. I definitely feel stronger. You do get some aches and pains. You do get like some joint stuff sometimes. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. I have like a little bit of, well, actually, the golfer's elbow is from doing pull-ups. I mean, one of the things with jujitsu is it kind of, for me, it's gotten me to do more strength and conditioning, to prevent injury in jujitsu and just to help the jujitsu. So I try to do pull-ups, push-ups. I do a little bit of light weights, really into the kettlebell stuff nowadays, stretching, like a lot of stretching now, like really a lot of stuff to open up the hips, doing yoga for the jujitsu. So that's been helping me physically. It's been helping with my mobility. I'm doing some mobility stuff. I said the kettlebell, doing core stuff. Sometimes doing some cycling, which helps. I don't really do running anymore because of my knees and joints. It's really, I really, I'll be running and I'll get some pain in the hips or different areas in my body that it's that pain that's not going away. I don't want to ignore it and continue the running. So I've been doing brisk walking, which brisk walking is really helpful. It gets you into that zone 2 sort of cardio space. If I want to push it a little bit more, I'll do the bike, stationary bike, like really push it. Recently, I've been getting back into jump rope. I was doing a lot of that with boxing. I took months off and I just started the other day. And like I was working muscles I wasn't working anymore. And it really is beneficial. So I do like 4 rounds, 3-minute rounds of the jumping rope. It's really, really helpful. I do some other like burpees and circuit stuff as well. Physically, it's been really helpful. It really has. I feel stronger. I feel like when I'm rolling around on the ground, like I've like I could feel like I just roll around. So it's helpful. It's helpful with my cardio. I'm just feeling stronger. I'm feeling healthier than I did before I started. My body just feels strong. It gives you like that inner sort of strength, like in the muscles and stuff. And, anyone that's doing jujitsu knows what I'm talking about. You just feel strong. Like, when I get massages as well. I'm talking about some of the self-care stuff too. Massages are really helpful. When I used to get a deep tissue massage before jujitsu, I would go, it'd be painful. Ow, ow. Now, after doing jujitsu, when I get deep tissue massage, it's never like deep enough. I don't like, it's kind of like go deeper. I can't really feel it as much. I don't know if that's good or whatever, but I think it like builds up the muscle strength. How does jujitsu contribute to mental toughness and resilience? I think I already talked about that. So, yeah, like it really teaches you to be aware of the mind, be aware of the anxiety. Yeah, just be aware of the mind. You hear the chatter, you hear, oh no, this is not, I'm getting, you start to get like, like, oh my gosh, the person's passing my guard. Okay, well, so what? Do your best. Like I'm learning to relax more. I'm not all the way there. When you're a white belt, you're like, but now like blue belt, I'm a little bit more relaxed. And when I'm rolling with a white belt it has that frantic sort of energy. I'm trying to calm down. I'm taking a deep breath. I'm kind of like letting him do what he wants to do in a way, and I'm just slowing down, waiting for my opportunity and not like getting into that frantic space that he's in because it can be contagious. Someone coming with you with that energy, and you can start coming with that energy as well. It's like in that movie, I forgot the name of the movie, the Mel Gibson movie, where the person said that, was talking about the fear, like, don't, that fear is contagious. And the other tribe was coming with the fear. So it's like, don't take on that fear. Yeah. And the resilience, it definitely helps with resilience. Jiu-jitsu is difficult. It's probably the most difficult thing I've ever done. It's not an easy sport. It's something that takes time. It's a gradual process. There's so many details. One thing, helps with another thing, and you start to get it slowly, the body memory, and it teaches you to be patient. Really, really teaches patience. You don't move through the ranks in jujitsu like you do in taekwondo or karate. It's a slow progress, which I think is really good for the sport because anyone that really has a purple belt, brown belt, you know that they've earned it. They've gone through years and years, hours and hours on the mat, drilling and sparring and learning. It's not like a quick thing. It's not a quick thing. It's something that takes time. So the emotional and psychological impact, can you share a story or example of how jujitsu has helped you overcome a challenge outside of the gym? Yeah, going through my divorce, going through those challenges in life, it's really helped with that. It's really helped because I was beginning jujitsu at that time and just doing the physical stuff and showing up every day and whatever anxiety, whatever stress I was holding on to, jujitsu and Muay Thai really helped with that. It just really helped to relieve some of that. And just to get it out on the mat and just be like exhausted, and so it's helped. And just the philosophy of jujitsu is peaks and valleys. It's not just going all the way up. Life has peaks and valleys. So it's remembering that this time is really difficult, but this too shall pass. Whatever we're dealing with will pass. That means in jujitsu, when things are always like all coming together and you're in the flow and like everything is working, this will pass. You'll get to the time where in jujitsu where it seems like nothing's working. It's like really hard and you don't want to do it and you just show up and your body's not feeling right, or you're not putting things together like you used like you were so easily before. That person that used to roll and maybe used to do pretty well with them, now they figured out your game and they're getting you caught in things that like over and over, and you just can't figure out the puzzle. I have one blue belt that I roll with that is really hard to figure out. So yeah, and I want to mention where I'm at today with jujitsu. Now I'm training. My home base is Clockwork Jiu-Jitsu in Manhattan, in NoHo, Manhattan. That's where I've been training. That's where I got my blue belt. That's where I do the majority of my training. And my professor, Josh Griffith, is great. Very positive atmosphere. He's always there to answer questions. He's really hands-on, and the it's just like a laid back, positive atmosphere. And I really enjoy training there, and I want to talk a little bit about the social aspect of jujitsu, which is really one of the things I think a lot of practitioners and um I could speak to, for myself. As you can tell in this podcast, I can be an anxious person, you can tell by my breathing. I get that's just the way, my nervous system is. And that's why I like throughout just reminding myself to take a breath. And when I'm taking the breath, I can hear the voices, the mind saying, "Oh, people are going to see you're taking the breath and you're feeling anxious and blah, blah, blah. Someone might judge that, someone blah, 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 and they won't like it because you're taking, so that stuff comes up. That comes up when I'm on the mat in jujitsu. A lot of, and I'm going to get to the social aspect in jujitsu, but a lot of what I've been learning, um, cultivating in my life right now is self-love. Even though I feel anxious sometimes, even though I feel triggered sometimes, even though I don't feel enough at times, I'm choosing to love myself anyway. Even though, I aren't happy at times with the things that I've done, that I in life, or I'm not happy with how I've showed up for myself, or maybe I've given in to anxiety or fear, or maybe I haven't showed up for myself in life. I choose to love myself today anyway. And how does that look? That means taking time to myself, self-care, giving the body the breath. So I'm going to take a moment to do that. The mind says in the middle of a podcast, the judging mind, you're taking a moment to breathe. But how about we'll reframe that? And you all can breathe with me, whoever needs a breath at this moment. So it's not just about me. Let's take a space in the middle of this podcast to take a moment, a pause to breathe. To be who we are at this moment. And who we are as human. And as humans, we may have anxiousness, anxiety. As humans, some old traumas may come up. As humans, we are entitled to time and space for ourselves. And we can give each other that space. So I'm giving you that space to be there with you as you're taking a breath with me. And I hope you can be there with me at this moment to take a breath with me. To be there with my anxieties and my old feelings of feeling inadequate at times or feeling not good enough. You know, this fear of how will this be received? How will I be received? In jujitsu, that may look like taking a moment to try something that perhaps I'm afraid to try, trying a move that I haven't tried before, because what if it doesn't work and I lose the position? But remembering we're there for each other, with our training partner. So trusting them the training partner to be with us in that moment. And so that may show a vulnerability. That may mean I try something and it doesn't work. And I lose the position and they get a better position and I have to tap. There's that humility. The social part of jujitsu is so important. It's like the episode Cheers. When I go to jujitsu, everyone knows my name, in the gyms that I go to. And I love that. I love that everyone knows my name. And I see familiar places and I feel this warm feeling. I feel like I'm at home. It feels good. Sometimes I'm going through something really hard in life and I go to jujitsu and I'm with people that I know and I'm rolling and for that hour I'm not saying I'm not thinking about that thing at all, but I'm not thinking about it as much. And I love that for that hour a day. And sometimes I tell people what I'm dealing with. I'll tell my coach, I'm going through this. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that." So we can share things, I think if you're going to jujitsu, you can it's really a community. It's really a place where it's part of my life. It's become part of my life. It's become a place where to be honest, I don't always open up to people at jujitsu. I don't always let people in, but it's something I'm working on and I would like to because it's a place where we go and we train and we learn the moves, but it's also life. It's part of life. It's a place that you're spending this amount of time and you're going there for years. So I feel like it should be a place where you can say, "Hey, this person in my family passed away. I'm having a hard time," or "I broke up went through a breakup. Having a hard time. You can talk to someone after. And what I've learned is that the people, that I've talked to about anything, they're usually pretty open. I'm not saying that everyone is. It depends on their level of how vulnerable they are with themselves, how open they are with their own emotions, and how empathetic they can be. And not everyone is. And so you may have to pick and choose, but sometimes there is someone that you're able to do that with. And chances are you will find someone, in your jujitsu class. So I'm gonna wrap up. Um, so I did one competition. I did one competition at white belt. Terrified. I got the gold medal, but I was terrified. It took a lot. It took a lot out of me. My fiance will, she can validate, this story that it was like it took days to kind of get over that. I was kind of limping as well. And I was like so afraid, so anxious. It was really the mental stuff. What would people think? And I'm still working on that. I haven't gotten over that. That's why I haven't competed at blue belt. It's just an ego thing. But I want to compete again. I want to feel like I'm at a good place to do it physically. Still, dealing with little things here and there. I don't know if they'll ever go away, but I want to feel like my mobility is at a place where I can do it, and that I got to get my cardio, which I think cardio and mind are like, for me with jujitsu, they affect each other, or the mind affects the cardio, the anxiety. As you can see, as like some parts in this podcast, I'm like, oh, but yeah. Where do you see yourself in jujitsu, in your jujitsu journey in the next few years? I'm just going to continue training and continue to grow, continue to try new things. Like I want to try to go for submissions at the risk of losing a position. I want to try that. And I want to try, just going for it, just like pushing myself a little bit more, like really just not listening to the mind. Sometimes I get gassed and I'm like, oh, is it something with my heart? Is lungs? I have doctor's appointments and things, and like, I got to get this stuff checked out, because sometimes I'm like, is it like a physical thing, or is it like my cardio's weak? I mean, I work out all the time, so I don't know. I'm 46 years old. I'll be 47 in August. My family, I have a history of heart disease in the family, high blood pressure, stuff like that. Luckily, I don't have any of these things, but I'm always mindful, that, okay, how much of it is anxiety and how much of it is physical. So you can't chalk up everything to ego and anxiety. I think you also got to get checked out and be safe and everything else. And so I'm getting some of that stuff checked out. So that's about it about, with jujitsu. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I love the sport. I love seeing when things like come together and I'm like flowing. I'm like, wow, like how did that happen? And and I just the thing is I'm not getting any younger, so I don't know if I'm gonna get much like my athletically, I don't know if I'm gonna I don't know if it's gonna be going up, up, up. Like my mind is like, oh, I just keep getting athletic and start being like a like who like Mika Galval. I watch him, I want to do those moves. But if you know Mika, like he's doing cartwheels and all sorts of stuff, and I don't think I'm gonna be moving like that. But it's a part of it is just doing what I can, kind of adjusting my jujitsu to my age and pushing it for my age. Like not just, just kind of being, oh, all, like not pushing myself. Like I think it needs to be challenging. I need to continue to push and try new things. They may not always work, but like find that line where that place where, okay, I can do this much, but this much, the body's just not doing it. So like try to find that sort of balance. Still to this day, when I miss a class of jujitsu, it's like, oh my God, I'm bad. I'm gonna go backwards. I've lost all of my jujitsu. I tell like my partner hears this and she's like, what are you talking about? Like relax, that's like you can use like losing some more days and just taking some time to relax and recover. And she's right. And also everybody is different. Some people can, you have to know what your body, you just have to listen to your body. And if it feels like I need a rest and I haven't been sleeping for whatever reasons, because sometimes I have trouble sleeping, I just have to like just not go to jujitsu that day. Maybe watch some videos, stretch, work on mobility. Or if I go, just drill. Don't get into that, rolling and sparring because I know myself. I may say I'm going to go light, and I know I'm so competitive. I don't go light. I mean, a lot of times it just means I'm getting crushed, but I'm still being competitive, even though I'm getting crushed. I'm still trying really hard. If I'm rolling with a black belt, I'm going to be getting crushed, but I'm going to give it my all. At the end of every round of jujitsu, if you look over at me, I'm dripping with sweat and I'm huffing and puffing because that's just the way that I roll. And so I'm learning to balance, just do other things that I enjoy doing as well. Like I'm at an age, I have family, I have kids, I need to balance it out, just do other things. And it's hard to sort of transition because I'm thinking like, the younger guys, they thinking more competitively and maybe they're going into competition. And I'm not at that place right now in my life. And that's just me. Some people my age may be doing jujitsu for that reason, but I'm not. And I'm doing it. I want to learn some self-defense. I love doing it. I like the health benefits. It's a great sport. It's helping me on in a different areas in my life. And yeah, yeah, and that's about it. If you have any questions or comments, please leave your questions and comments in the comment section. Also, please subscribe to the channel and share. Still trying to build the channel. Like this podcast is something that is fairly new. So the more that people put this out, the better. I'm putting this episode out. I had something lined up for this week, but it didn't work out. I was going to interview someone, but I just wanted to get some content and also just to feel like I'm continuing to put something out there. And if you like this content, please, please, please share it. It really, really helps. Subscribe. It really helps. Like it. Comment, if you have any questions or anything. If you do jujitsu, share your story. I'd love to hear about it. Maybe you'd be a guest on the podcast. And again, this podcast is just an exploration of me trying to grow by interviewing people and listening to their experience because it really helps for me to listen to other people's stories and to share that with you all. So hopefully it's a benefit to you as well. So I'm enjoying it. Not sure, I'm thinking about maybe doing themes and like maybe a 5 podcast theme and then switching the theme and doing something like that. So I don't know, leave some comments and yeah. So I'll just leave with this. Whatever you're going through, wherever you are in life, you might have made a lot of mistakes, a lot of things that you felt like were setbacks, and you can't go back and fix them. And you may feel like things are hopeless. And I just want to say, they're not hopeless. They may not, whatever you're trying, if it's something that's not serving you, yeah, that might be hopeless to continue to do that same thing. But it's hopeless in that just realizing that it doesn't work and doing something else. But what I'm trying to say, no matter what you've gone through in life, no matter how bad things have gotten, no matter what mistakes you've made, you are worth it. You're enough exactly the way that you are. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to get certain, achievements or status in life to be enough or to be valued or to get love. I'm sure if you look, there are people in your life that love you right now. You may not realize it. But most important is loving yourself. You know, you were born into this earth. So that means you're meant to be here. That means you're worth it. You're valuable to this earth. You really, really are. It does not matter what you've done in life, what mistakes you've made. We've all made mistakes. We've all have come short in life. It doesn't matter if you're in your 20s now, if you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s. You can start to just care for yourself. Take some time out, whether it's looking in the mirror every day, saying, "Hey, I love you. I'm here for you. We got this. I love you." It may sound corny. Just say it. Sound corny. You could say, like, why does it sound corny? It sounds corny to say that you love yourself. Why? How are you going to love anyone else? You know, and if you don't love yourself, how? That's where that love, it's just, there's love here. Really, you do love yourself because there's love here. You're alive. Love is here. It's just accessing it, like realizing that the love is here. You are here. You are made of love. You are love. So just looking in the mirror, I love you. That is real. That is true. You know, just try that out. You're enough. You're enough the way that you are, you know, and everything that you've tried in life, all the mistakes, they came out of love that was misdirected, that was either from, you know, your family were trying to love you, but they loved in the wrong way. They did the best that they could, forgive them and move on. You were trying to love yourself. You were trying to protect yourself. You were trying to survive. And maybe it worked at a certain age, but then now it's not serving you. But it comes from that place of love. Forgive yourself and move on. And now you can love yourself from this place of intelligence. How can you really love yourself today? You can ask yourself that question. What can you do today to love yourself? Maybe it's eating something that's good, nourishing for the body. Maybe it's working out, treating your body nice. Maybe it's getting more rest and relaxation, which I had to force myself to do this weekend and it was great. Really, really great. It felt like I was doing something wrong. I was being lazy, but I just laid around and and I felt good, so that's love, it could be anything. Maybe it's setting boundaries with other people because you're putting yourself first. You're okay, no, I need this. I need to take care of myself so that I have something to offer to you. I can't love you, I can't care for you unless I'm taking care of myself. So you can set those boundaries. And so that's really important. Those are, you may be afraid of upsetting people, and you may upset people because they're used to you people pleasing. And I'm saying this because I'm kind of telling myself this because I don't do it all the time. I'm working on this myself. But yeah, you people please so that, it's like a vicious cycle. You may be afraid of being rejected and abandoned. So you turn into a chameleon, you people please so that the person doesn't reject you or abandon you, But what ends up happening is you end up pushing that person away. You end up, because if you're people pleasing, it's not really you. They're connecting with some idea of what you think you are. What they're connecting with is that people pleasing energy. And what you're really asking them to do in a way is you're communicating to the universe, yes, I'm not good enough, abandon me, reject me. And that person in some way is going to pick up with that and is going to move away from you in some way. So I've learned, just don't abandon yourself. You don't abandon yourself by being yourself. And it's not always easy to do. It's something I'm continuing to work on, I have to work on it daily. So I'll leave you with that. Enjoy the day. And yeah, thank you for listening to the podcast. Take care. Bye.